Hey, in this video, I want to tell you why you should not hire a STR manager to manage your MTR. Or I would say even worse, don't hire a LTR manager to manage your MTR. If this is your first time seeing one of my videos, my name is Alan Dwan, the founder of Hospy Homes. We're based in Southern California, and we manage short-term and midterm rentals. I actually got my start in short-term rentals, so that's really my, my foundation, my origin is from that space. So sharing this with you from the perspective of being an STR manager that learned how to manage MTRs the right way. So I'll get into this. LTR, MTR, STR, there's similarities. There's a lot of differences as well. I'm in the camp that views MTRs more similar to an STR. Some people I know, and I see where they're coming from, and I don't disagree with everything they think about this, but some people do view MTRs more similar to LTRs. But ultimately, the takeaway is on a spectrum, MTR falls in the middle, so it has some similarities to STR, some similarities to LTR, right? So here's the difference. An STR manager can do, we're assuming here a competent one, right? A good STR manager can do pretty much all the basic operational week-to-week, day-to-day pieces that an MTR manager needs to do. So what are those that are similar? You have to get the guests to book. You have to set pricing. You have to schedule cleanings and turnover after the guest checks out. You are using sites like for Airbnb for MTR bookings. The software they use to manage MTR bookings may be the same STR software, like a Hospitable, Hostfully, Guesty, those type of platforms. And the property has to be, they have to know how to make a good listing with the furnished photos, right? Which are very similar to an Airbnb when it comes to good photography. They have to manage, the Airbnb listing and the algorithm and the search and all of that. So a great STR manager would bring all that value for an MTR. The main thing though, and I would argue this is the singular thing that a MTR manager that will make them, will help you succeed and reach your goals with your MTR, is about the marketing and getting bookings. What do I mean by that? An MTR that is only listed on Airbnb and Furnished Finder, and that's it, if those are the only sources for bookings, is always going to be less than optimal as far as its performance, the bookings, the occupancy rate, and the total income, right? Which is what you care about as the owner. And why is the reason for that? So much of the MTR booking activity happens off of those platforms. That's why. So for us, if I had to kind of give round numbers, 1/3 of our MTR bookings are not on those platforms, and 2/3 are through those platforms. And if you break it down by property, it's actually very different as well. So for example, a 1-bedroom or a studio that's catering to 1 or 2 people, MTR, will get most of your bookings on Airbnb and Furnished Finder. So that kind of leans more probably toward almost even 100%, close to 100%. When you start looking at bigger homes, 3-4 bedroom homes and larger, you start seeing more, and this is what we see too with our portfolio, closer to 50%, sometimes more than 50% are these off-platform, I call them B2B bookings ultimately. So B2B bookings, insurance relocations, if you're new to that concept, it's basically the local family, there has damage, and their insurance policy provides alternative living while their home is being repaired. Corporate bookings, which is when a company rents a home for their employees, and some other types as well. Bookings that are coming through lead connectors. Lead connectors are companies or individuals who source these kind of B2B bookings, reach out to you directly. Those are examples of those off-platform bookings. So now going back to the STR manager part, an STR manager, if you're a STR manager, and I'm happy would want to help any STR manager that's a good one to succeed to manage MTRs, this is the number one thing I would recommend. Make sure your MTR properties that you're managing, or even if it's a hybrid, STR, MTR hybrid, you have exposure and marketing to these B2B bookings. Because otherwise you're leaving bookings on, even if you're getting good occupancy through Airbnb, you might not be getting optimal income, because oftentimes these off-platform B2B bookings also pay higher rent than Airbnb. Airbnbs. Yeah, so that's a singular thing, right? So, and this is what I tell our arcs is that's the biggest value, and where I spend a lot of my time personally to building my company is continually networking and building relationships with these companies, so that anytime, here's my goal, anytime anyone is looking for an MTR in my market, for example, Southern California is my base, I want them to think of Hospy Homes. And the only way that would happen is that if we make it easy for them and we have the available inventory when they reach out. Because ultimately, if there's an easier way for them to get their clients or their employees a rental, they'll do the easier way, obviously, right? So I want to make it easier for them. And they come directly to us, and they won't even use a platform like Airbnb. And this is not even talking about the fees, right? Airbnb has service fees that makes it more expensive for your guests. So that is I won't go into anything else, but just the singular number one reason why you should not hire a STR focused manager to manage your MTR. They likely will just put it on Airbnb, maybe Furnished Finder, that may be something new to them, and then just wait for bookings that way. And it's definitely not the right way to operate a midterm rental. I'll talk a little bit, this is much shorter, about the LTR side. Again, to me, an LTR is much more different to an MTR than an STR is, because it's not even furnished, right? An LTR manager definitely would not be using anything related to Airbnb. They're not listing LTRs on there, obviously. They're not using the apps. They don't understand how to manage take over a property that's furnished and has like plates and pots and pans in the kitchen, keeping track of that inventory, every turnover, the frequent cleanings and turnarounds, their process of inspection after move out, typically looking at the walls and the property itself after it's all emptied. But in an inspection process, turnaround process for furnished, you got to check everything else, right? Go through the plates and the all stuff in the kitchen cabinets, a lot more there, restock supplies. Yeah, and LTR, I would say the only maybe benefit an LTR manager would have is they might have some unique, booking lead flow, because they're likely a licensed real estate agent or a broker, and they may have something there. But I don't expect, in my experience, we don't get many MTR bookings through Zillow, through MLS and typical LTR listing platforms like that. So in my opinion, it is even worse to hire an LTR manager than an STR manager to manage your MTR. If you have any questions on this, please comment, please message me. I'm happy to elaborate and answer, and I actually do. And I don't get that many messages, honestly, so I'm happy to answer them and help you out. And if you haven't seen in my description, there's a link to my Skool community. That's really the best place. I help everyone with MTR questions or anything, where I spend time multiple times a week. We have a weekly call where I answer people's questions and it's my energy there. So hope you found this valuable. See you next time.